Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about basic pop chord notation. This is going to be useful to us a little ways down the road when we get into chromatic chords, because it's a lot easier to say, oh, well that's an E7 chord, than to try and think of the Roman numeral straight away. So we're going to keep it simple. Let's look at the triads that we have on the screen in front of us. We have a C major triad, a D minor triad, and a B diminished triad. So the rule with the pop chords is if it's just a major triad, then all you have to do is put the root. So that's all it is. A C above it means that that's a C major chord. If it's a minor triad, then you just put a lowercase m next to the root. We're always going to use the root as the letter name that we give it. So this D with a lowercase m tells me that that's a D minor triad. And with the diminished chord, we're going to put B and then the little circle that stands for diminished. Sometimes you might see B and then the word dim, dim. You'll find that since this is still a living labeling system, that there are some inconsistencies between what different people do. We're going to stick with this for now. So we've got our basic C major chord, D minor chord, B diminished. So what if we add sevenths to these? So if we're diatonically in C major, then adding a seventh to that makes that a major seventh chord. So instead of C, we're going to have C and then a major 7. Possibly the trickiest thing to remember about pop chord notation is that the 7 always refers to the minor 7. So if you build a major triad with that minor 7, it's always going to sound like a dominant chord. So if we had done that in this case, if instead of having C, E, G, B natural, we'd had a B flat, which gives us this chord, which sounds like a dominant 7th, then this would just be C7, just like that. So that's like I said, the trickiest thing. If you see that just the 7 by itself, it doesn't mean diatonic, it means that it's the minor 7th. So let's add a 7th to this D minor chord. So this could never be a dominant 7th chord, right? Because the minor triad on the bottom means that it just couldn't be. So when we get the D minor with the 7th, all we do is write D minor 7. So in this case, the minor is still referring to the triad, it's not referring to the 7th, unlike with the major 7th where it was. And lastly, we have the diminished. Now we could have fully diminished, we could have half diminished. The easiest one is fully diminished, so my A flat. So in that case, you just have B diminished 7, and that tells us everything we need to know. If it's half diminished, then it's a little trickier. So if it was that, then we'd have this weird looking one. Ready? So we have B minus 7 with a flat 5. So if you think about this, every pop chord assumes that the chord is in the key of the root, except for the 7th. So we have B minor, so B and D, with the F, which should be an F sharp, being flatted. So the flat 5 just tells me that the F sharp has been turned into an F, and then the minor 7th is as we'd expected. Okay, so let's just add a little layer of complexity to this. So this first chord here, so using your ears, you could hear that that was a major 7th chord. So we would have C major 7. Now we can have slash notation to show us inversions. So this is a C major 7 chord, but there's an E in the bass. So to show us the bass, we're going to write C major 7 over E. So let's look at this next one. Just take a second to try and figure it out. We have F, A, C, E flat, and then an A in the bass. So what would that be? So since it's a dominant chord, we'd have F7. So even though the E flat's not in the key of F, it's just F7 because we assume that every chord is dominant. And then it's over slash A. Okay, take a look at these last two and then we'll check. So this one is a D minor 7th chord. So it's D minor triad with the 7th, and then the D diminished 7, so D, F, A flat, and C flat. So that's really all there is to this really basic pop chords. We're always going to use the letter name of the root of the chord. The seventh is always minor. Again, trickiest part. And then if you see that capital M is referring to the seventh, if you see the lowercase m, it's referring to the triad.